The Search Podcast USA Edition series is sponsored by Ascen. Ascen is a top employer of record in North America that exclusively helps staffing and recruitment agencies hire contractors compliantly throughout the US and Canada. Ascen's all-in-one white-label platform handles onboarding, timesheets, payroll, benefits, insurance, invoicing, and optional financing so you can grow quickly in the US and Canada. Start growing your staffing agency in the US today with Ascen. Visit us at ascen.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Search Podcast. I'm Elliot Manning, the Managing Director of Cayman Recruitment Group. We've been doing this podcast, as you all know now, for quite some time. Still a hot subject, won't be changing it anytime soon. You know, I do see a huge opportunity in the US market for the international recruitment world, as well as, you know, those already in the US that are crushing it. And you know, I believe the start of this year in particular for recruitment has exploded, you know, which is a long time coming because there's been some interesting periods. And we can learn a little bit more about it today. I've got a new guest on this week, on this episode, who has been in the industry now for some time and has done some phenomenal things. But Michael, I will let you take away a proper introduction of yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. My name's Michael. I started the Chambers Group. We specialize in executive talent in the manufacturing industry, as well as specific engineering talent, specifically here in the Southeast Battery Belt, where things are just blowing up in manufacturing, specifically with, you know, plants that have never existed before. So they're scaling completely new plants.
Yeah.
It's really a really exciting time for me to be in recruitment. Again, after spending a few years away from recruiting, I just got the itch again and just had to jump back in. And it's just a really exciting time to get back into it.
Awesome. So you say the battery belt, and I've heard this expression before. Can you explain what that is for those that have no idea, you know, and have never heard of it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what it means, there's a lot of EVs and battery storage coming online, specifically here in the battery belt, as opposed to what we used to refer to as the Rust Belt. You know, here in the South, specifically North, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, all these places are, you know, exploding with, you know, this big textile area years ago. And, you know, now we're seeing the economies just completely shift into, you know, battery storage, semiconductors, all of this stuff that's really going to power this new economy. And it's just like, I think I was reading the other day that there's $48 billion worth of investment coming in by 2030 into the Southeast,
Yeah.
specifically for this sort of stuff. And it's just, you know, and all the headaches that come along with that on the hiring side, you know.
Is this what you
It's an
did
exciting
previously
time.
in recruitment? Has this always been your market focus?
No. When I first started, which is a funny story, you know, my dad was in recruiting. I didn't particularly have interest in recruiting. I had a digital marketing business in New York, had a couple other businesses, started a bakery, had a bakery for a long time.
Nice.
Decided to sell that bakery and was figuring out what I was going to do next. And I was like, you know, let me try this recruiting thing. And then I got into the AI side of medical tech. And this was almost the perfect time for me to get into recruiting because it was just when COVID was happening. So I had a lot of time to learn. And then we all know what happened once hiring came back online after COVID. It was a crazy time. And I had never experienced something like that before.
Yeah. Amazing. Why did you not look at other markets? Like what led you to this particular sector of recruiting? And, you know, had you done like loads of research on it? Did you know people that were doing it? Like where did this come about?
Yeah, a lot of research, and also, you know, I've was born in the South. I've lived all over the place, but then I moved back from Seattle to the Charlotte area, and I read a lot. So saw
Yeah.
everything that was growing in this area, started doing some research, and then once I decided, I wanted to jump back into recruiting, I was like, this is what I'm going to jump back into. It also helped that I had a lot of friends that are, working in these plants, a lot of friends that are, engineers working at these places. So, they were like, hey man, this is something that I think you should at least look into. So I started looking into it, and I was like, I think this is the time to make the jump again.
Yeah. I guess one of the biggest questions I've got for you, which is going to be of interest to a lot of people right now, and you built this from scratch, not too long ago. What was your business development tactic to go and bring on clients, and how did you do it? Was there anything special that you did? Anything in particular that worked for you?
Um, I mean, I very much, an in-person type guy. So I'll get in the car and drive to these plants. That's a big part of what I do. FaceTime, being there in person. Um, I love using LinkedIn. I love posting content, posting videos. I like reaching out to people on LinkedIn, but I think a big part that's missing overall is, in-person visits. And then, another thing I do that I don't see happen often, and I think it's really helped me, is I send mail.
Yeah. Well, actually,
Handwritten
like
notes,
physical mail. Yeah.
physical mail. I'll do these talent briefs and stuff, and I'll put it in an envelope, put a sticky note on it, handwritten notes, and then send it on. And I get
Do you,
a lot of feedback from that.
do you have any statistics that you can break down against how many businesses you've attracted through sending out physical mail, how much business you've brought on through face-to-face value, or how much you brought on just by using LinkedIn? Do you know roughly what
Yeah.
that might look like?
Yeah. So when I first started my business, I started out with like 100 companies that I know for a fact that I wanted to work with. Um, so much research into each of those, basically break them down into 25. So the first 25 mailers I sent out of those 25, I got about 15 responses back. And then out of those 15, 10 of those were clients, and they're still clients now.
Wow. Do they work with other agencies as well, or are you exclusive? Like, how have you set it up with them?
Um, they use some recruiters for other stuff, but they're not like, I'm very specific on what I do. If
Why?
they want to, because that's where I can keep my knowledge where it is, especially here in this area. I learned early on from mentors in this industry that there's nothing wrong with being a generalist, but as far as what I've seen work for me is I'm hyper focused on the specific engineering roles that I can help hire for, as well as those executive level roles that I can hire for. And I
Amazing.
don't really venture out of that at all. I get a lot
Where
of people on LinkedIn coming to me that are outside of what I know, that expertise, and I have a lot of other recruiter friends, and I will send those people right to them. I'm like, hey, I got this guy. I think you're a better fit. And I'll tell them on the phone, I'm like, look, I would love to work for you. I'm impressed with your background, but I'm gonna do you a disservice by placing you. And a big
Yeah.
thing for me is, I really, really, really track my retention rates. And it's really important to me that, I have people staying for 1 year and 2 years, and beyond that, I feel like I failed if they're going to be there for less than a year.
Amazing. Have you set up plans for the business, like in what you're trying to achieve in your growth or next step of your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting to the point now. Right now, I started this solo. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to bring on, two more people to work with me. The business development side, I've got a lot of like inbound stuff coming, but I want to, I have been very good at building my market as far as getting out beyond that to
Yeah.
further out into Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia. I'm going to need more people to help me with that because I only have so much time in a day. As
Yeah.
much as I don't sleep, I should probably get some sleep. So it's
Um,
one of those things. But yeah, I mean, I really want to be the person somebody calls to when they're got a new plant coming online and they have plans, that I'm the guy that they call first.
Amazing. What's your intentions long term with the business? Like, what did you set out to achieve when you looked at this, day one, you opened up the doors, you brought in these clients, where do you see this going?
Yeah, I mean, I see it continuing to grow and being, you know, that talent voice for those facilities here. And then, as those facilities are matured and we see less and less of these greenfield facilities come online, be more of a person that's going to help them with, on the talent side and internal academies to make sure that, those skills gaps are not gaps. Because I
Yeah.
see a lot of this right now. There's huge skill gaps. And then, specifically here, 1 out of 3 people in the aerospace of my aerospace clients, 1 out of 3 of the engineers that work there are 55 and up. And, they're getting ready to lose like 12% of their workforce to that. And with that, they're losing institutional knowledge and all this other stuff that's important.
Yeah.
And a lot of conversations that I'm having with them now, if I'm not specifically recruiting for them, is, getting that data from those people and housing it somewhere, so that it's not lost.
So a lot of the stuff that you're doing is obviously quite specific. I wouldn't necessarily say, it's niche, but, you're particular of who you work with and what you do. Is there anything against or around your model of, that you offer to businesses, that they have said to you, like, this is amazing, no one else has done this for us? What you are doing is setting you apart from everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that most of the time when I get through to people, what I'm doing is different from what a lot of other people in this marketplace are doing. The way that I talk, the way that I interact, and my expectations that I have for my clients with me, and vice versa. I would say that when my first call before we even signed an agreement, I think they were shocked by the things that I expected from them. And they were like, I don't think I've had a conversation like this in a while, about what I expect from their
Yeah.
side and my side.
Are you doing retainers? Are you just working contingent? Like, how have you set yourself up for, the best kind of fees and opportunities with these clients?
I learned the hard way in the recruiting industry that contingent was not going to be for me. I had several hard months when I started recruiting, with a contingent model. So when I started the new one, I wasn't, I went in with the goal of being 100% retained. I still do contingent work, but I just set it up differently where I'm still getting money up front and it's split out throughout the course of the search so that I'm still getting money up front. But I would say where it sits right now, I would say 95% of the people that I'm working with is on a retained basis.
Fine. Do they, and obviously they're receptive of it, it works very well. Do you envisage that that's the path that you're going to take long term, where it's just pure retained business and not really kind of moving away completely from the contingent side, even for
Yeah,
the people that you hire as well?
I see a place for the contingent aspect of the business. I'm still do it now. But as far as where I see it, the retained model is where I see the most growth, and where I see the most opportunity for recruiting in general.
Yeah.
I just
What
think
what
it's upfront, it's more difficult to win the business if you don't know how to pitch a retainer. Um, but it's worth it in the long term. And the clients that I've worked with that have given pushback, they love it.
Yeah, I bet. What's been the hardest part of doing what you do, Michael? Like, since you started this, business, what's been the biggest challenge for you?
I would say that, the market here is really saturated with recruiters that are doing on paper the same thing. So the challenge really was breaking through the noise. Um, I mean, we all know how it is. There's great recruiters, and then there's some recruiters that aren't so great, and sometimes clients get burned, and it's a little difficult to get them to come back out. And I think that was probably one of the challenges. And then once I did finally break through, and then telling them how much I wanted to charge for a retainer and all that stuff, it felt like a mountain to climb, but once I took them through the whole process, showed them how the back end of it worked, at least they were receptive to it. And.
Fantastic. And now you have plenty of case studies and examples that will help you if you need to go and bring in more opportunities, right?
Yep, 100%.
Fair play. Look, well done, Michael. You've done something that not a lot many people, can do, want to do, and have the courage to do. But there is a lot of opportunity in the US for your market. The amount of companies I'm seeing, and I worked with recently a couple of firms that I've advised that are doing manufacturing, engineering. They're moving over to their new offices, predominantly around Texas. It always seems to be the case, and they're already operating in your market from the UK. And what I've noticed is that, and this is kind of why I've been asking you some questions around like how you've differentiated yourself, but they're doing very well. They're doing some phenomenal figures, in billings from the UK, having not even met half of their clients. So, it's really interesting to say, or to see, in this current market, how can you get things, done differently and better? And yours is obviously going to meet your clients, do the outreach that you've done, get that FaceTime value. I say to everyone, like, even if you are in, in a lot of the audience is UK as well as US based, get out to the States, go and meet your clients, go and put a face to the name and actually build that rapport, that relationship, because it's only going to take someone like Michael to turn up on their doorstep and take that relationship away completely, because he's actually put the effort into be in front of them properly, right? And I think that's been a crucial positive kind of like element to your business's progression.
Yeah, 100%.
What's the ambition for the business, Michael, now? Like, you want to make a couple of hires, great. Like, what do you intend to, where do you see the business in the next 2 years?
I mean, I foresee it growing out in the Southeast larger than it is. I do some work in aerospace and semiconductors, so I plan on doing a little bit more with that. I've been really focused on the EV side of things, just straight off the jump, and I do have a couple other manufacturing areas that I'm working in. So as I bring more people on, I want to have a really strong foothold here, specifically in the Southeast, before I decide if I'm going to branch out west a bit and see where I can take it in the US as a whole. But right now, my sole focus is on the firm being experts here, while all of this stuff is going on and growing right now. Because I knew it was busy, but I didn't anticipate the feedback I was going to get off of the jump, and then have job orders this high and be one guy and have my dogs wondering when they're going to go for a walk, and I'm like, I'm sorry, man, I'm swamped right now.
I've been in your position, and I've got dogs as well. I ended up just basically using that time to go on a walk, and I would target specific phone calls that I needed to make whilst I'm doing that walk, or send out voice notes or whatever it may well be to get attraction and just use that time. But I've been in that position where every minute of the day counts, and every time, every minute, of it's important to kind of utilize it as much as possible, but you do need some balance as well, which I'm sure you've learned regardless. What else is there, on your side, Michael, that you could see value added to people that are thinking about, opening up shop in the US, building their own businesses, whether they're going through the freelance kind of contract route, or whether they're looking to, expand into your space using retained only models?
Yeah, I mean, for me, probably the biggest thing that helps, and is just be yourself, be authentically who you are when you're on LinkedIn, posting and reaching out to people. It's so easy to slip into using AI, which is fine. It has its place as a tool, but don't lose, be who you are. If you want to send a whole, be what you are, and that comes across to people all the time. And I spent a lot of time, in my youth, before a professional career, working in hospitality and working as a server, and in New York, I worked at a Michelin star restaurant. So that whole thing about hospitality was drilled into me, and I very much take hospitality into this business. The
Yeah.
way that I treat it, the way that I run it, the way that I treat my clients is very much, hospitality. And I
It's
think
an
that comes
interesting
across to
point.
my clients.
Yeah, I find enough, before I set up my business and went into recruitment, I was in the same position in London, working in Michelin restaurants as a chef, and did it for a few years. And I completely understand. Not only does the hours and that work ethic and mindset and mentality have its value from what you did in that industry and what we did, but it's the way that you treat the candidates and the clients around you with, genuine and, I suppose, I want to say passionate, but like interest in them
Yeah.
and what they're doing and who they are, which is what I was taught in particular when I was training and working in that environment. So I'm probably one of the only ones that might get it, because we've
Yeah.
transitioned into the same game. Look, Michael, you've done something amazing. Should be, extremely proud of that. And, I can definitely see, if you continue on this trajectory, the growth and the opportunity that presents itself for you long term. But I really want to thank you for reaching out, with me, to be on this podcast and share your story. And for those listening in, if they're interested in that market and they want to ask Michael, you any questions, feel free to reach out. His information will be shared on the podcast across all of our channels. There'll be a few snippets going out there, but yeah, really think that you've shared some insight that not many others have been able to, or experienced, or done themselves. So I really want to, thank you for that. And it's been a real pleasure having you on here.
Yeah, likewise.
Michael, great to meet you. And we'll speak again very soon.
Right. Sounds great.